This Day in Sports History. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. Hey, and welcome to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. You can check out our full line of sports history podcasts at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's August 19th, and on this day in sports history, we had Mike Tyson's return to the ring, Lee Trevino's return to the winner's circle with another found putter, and Eddie Gaedel made his only plate appearance in the major leagues. In fact, there were several strange things that happened on the baseball diamond on this day that we got to talk about. But let's start out with what happened on this night in 1995 when Mike Tyson fought for the first time since his release from prison. So Tyson had been sentenced in 1992 for the rape of 18-year-old beauty pageant contestant Desiree Washington in an Indianapolis hotel room. He'd been sentenced to 10 years with 4 years suspended and was released in March 1995 after serving 3. He stepped into the ring against Peter Hurricane McNeeley on this night, a guy who had a record of 36-1, which sounds impressive, but when you look at the guys that he fought before Tyson, it is a list of palookas, has-beens, and a lot of never-wasses. It was a laughable opponent for Tyson, and at the pre-fight press conference, there were not a lot of people in attendance who could actually keep a straight face.
Keep laughing. Real funny, huh? If any one of you that doesn't respect me or what I'm doing or what I've been doing for the last 3 months since it was been announced, and going against a guy like this, you'd have a big dump in your pants. And I'll read my final statement. I'm Hurricane Peter McNeeley from Medfield, Mass. On Saturday night, watch me kick Tyson's ass. But if you haven't made your pay-per-view arrangements yet, make them soon, because remember what happens when I wrap you in my cocoon.
Obviously, all the focus of this fight was on Tyson. This was the He's Back fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Tyson was guaranteed $25 million, McNeeley a guaranteed $400,000 and a cut of the pay-per-view. Tyson had 3 years of pent-up prison time to unleash on McNeeley, but once the bell rang, McNeeley bull-rushed right out of his corner and started throwing punches.
Great deal on his movement the past few months, and here we go! And McNeeley, as advertised, comes right at Mike Tyson. Down goes McNeeley! Seconds into the first round!
He popped right back up, but Mills Lane settled him down and gave him a standing 8 count before restarting the fight. McNeeley actually trapped Tyson in the corner, and he got several good shots in. They didn't seem to bother Tyson too much, but he did bring him into a clinch, and then after another clinch, Lane moved in between the two and told them to knock it off. For Tyson, that meant cat and mouse time was over.
Knock that shit off, come on, let's go.
Mills Lane said stop that nonsense because it was starting to butt heads. Oh.
Tyson with a left hook, a right uppercut, down goes McNeeley again!
McNeeley's hurt this time, Steve. He's very hurt. He can barely stand up. This fight has got about 30 seconds left.
They want Tyson to go to the neutral corner. What's going on? The round's still
that
going
was
on.
not correct. That was not correct. That was not correct.
He quit.
That's it. He quit. McNeeley has quit.
He didn't quit. His corner threw in the towel.
He didn't quit at all. McNeeley didn't quit at all. His corner
didn't quit at all.
McNeeley popped right back up to his feet again, but his manager, Vinny Vecchione, stepped into the ring and he stopped the fight after only a minute 20 seconds. McNeeley and his manager were both roundly criticized for the early stoppage, but McNeeley later agreed with it, saying that, the lights may still have been on, but there was nobody home. I was knocked out standing on my feet. It was a nice little payday for him, though. The pay-per-view alone grossed $96 million. On this day in 1984, it was the Merry Mex winning his final major golf championship, and he thanked his wife for the motivation. Lee Trevino was 44. He'd won 28 PGA Tour events at this point in his career, but the pain in his back was getting worse. A lifetime of swinging golf clubs, plus, as I mentioned back on the June 27th edition of this podcast, he'd been struck by lightning 9 years earlier, and that had affected his back. Early in 1984, he was ready to put the golf clubs in the garage and take up broadcasting or something else. He shot a 76 in the first round of the Players' Championship, and he told his wife that he just didn't think he could do it much more. His wife, Claudia, was having none of that talk. She went to the golf course the next day and followed Lee for 18 holes. Trevino carded a 66 that day. Claudia told him to never mention that he couldn't play to her anymore, not after shooting that good a score on a tough golf course. And she added, "You're just using your sore back as an excuse." So he kept on playing. Entering the PGA Championship in '84, played that year at Shoal Creek in Alabama, Trevino was riding a crest of confidence and carrying a brand new putter he'd bought in Holland.
I was putting with my blade, and I went in and bought one, and it was too upright, too much loft. I put it on the floor, I stomped on it, I hit it down, I made it flat. I went back to the Dutch Open. The next 3 rounds, I shoot 13 under.
He added, "I liked that putter. It was tough, like me." Of course, if you're a fan of the show, then you may remember the PGA Championship he won in 1974 with a putter he found in the attic of the house he rented for the week. Trevino just could have hosted a TV show after his golf career, something like Barn Finds and Attic Treasures, where he found old golf clubs and then went out and shot 65 with them or something. It would have been a hit. Anyway, in this edition of the PGA Championship, after a third-round 67 at Shoal Creek, Trevino had a one-shot lead over Lanny Watkins and was 2 clear of Gary Player. Now, Lee's first hole on Sunday set the tone for him. He sank a 60-foot bomb with his brand new Dutch putter for a birdie, and he just knew something special was brewing that day. Instead of a 3-putt bogey that he was looking at, it was a 1-putt birdie. Lanny Watkins hung close, taking a one-shot lead at the turn, but he gave it back with a couple of bogeys on the backside. On the par 3 16th, Trevino found himself in a little bit of trouble, hitting his tee shot in a greenside bunker. He flopped it to just 20 feet and was looking at another 2-putt bogey, while Watkins was lining up his birdie try. Trevino pulled old Dutch out and gave it the old Billy Baroo. He rolled in that 20-foot par putt in what Player would later say was the greatest putt he'd ever seen under the circumstances. Watkins missed his birdie try and tapped in for par. That was the turning point. A 15-foot birdie putt at 18 was his final stroke of the day, and he gave his putter a kiss for all the hard work it had done through the 4 rounds. It was his 6th and final major tournament win, and if it hadn't been for his wife, he may not have been there at all. And hey, one quick note. You have no doubt heard the ad for Matt Adams' book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, and I used that as a source for this story, so appreciate that a lot, Matt. And let me tell you, this book is jam-packed with great golf stories throughout. The second edition has 205 pages, with most of the stories 3 to 4 pages long, so you do the math, and that should tell you how many stories are in this book. If you are a golfer or you know one, that book makes a great addition to anybody's library. So, check out Matt Adams' book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you buy your books. All right, to those weird baseball stories I mentioned earlier. On this day in 1951, 3-foot 9-inch Eddie Gaedel came to the plate for the St. Louis Browns. Now, we've talked about Bill Veeck a lot on this podcast, from the historically important things like signing Larry Doby and Satchel Paige to their first major league contracts, to the disastrous disco night in Chicago. Veeck put his stamp on a lot of things as a baseball executive. Well, on this day, the American League was celebrating its 50th anniversary. The Browns were playing a doubleheader against the Detroit Tigers on this day. Between games, there was a short celebration of the event on the field. At the end, a giant papier-mâché cake was brought onto the field, and out popped little person Eddie Gaedel, wearing a Browns uniform with the number 1/8 on the back. The 20,000 at the park that day enjoyed the humor and believed that to be it. But In the bottom of the first inning, Gaedel popped out of the dugout and started swinging 3 toy bats in the on-deck circle. Gaedel was then announced as a pinch hitter, and he strode to the plate. Home plate umpire Ed Hurley did not see the humor in the stunt, so he called time and he summoned Browns manager Zach Taylor. Taylor was prepared. He exited the dugout with Gaedel's signed contract in his hand. It was official, and so play continued. Tigers pitcher Bob Kane could only smile and laugh as he tried to throw a pitch in the smallest strike zone in Major League history. He couldn't find it, though, and he walked Gaedel on 4 straight pitches. After he got to first, he was replaced by a pinch runner, and that was it for the day. But that wasn't it from the American League office point of view. AL President Will Harridge called up Veeck and ordered him to release Gaedel, saying that bringing in a little person was not in the best interests of baseball. Though it's not called the Gaedel rule, his appearance did cause a change in the rules concerning contracts and when a player is eligible. Gaedel's contract had been sent to the league office late on Friday, August 17th. Veeck knew that the contract would hardly be looked at, and it was signed off on. Any intensive review would be done on Monday the 20th. Because of Veeck's antics, Major League Baseball changed the rules, saying that all contracts must be approved by the Commissioner of Baseball before a player can become eligible. Also, Veeck had given Gaedel very specific instructions to not swing the bat. Veeck had taken out a large insurance policy on Gaedel's life, and he was to keep the bat on his shoulder and leave it there. The first 2 pitches by Kane had been legit attempts, but the next 2 were kind of lobbed in. Gaedel, who had been a part-time actor and promotional model in the past, earned $100 for his plate appearance on this day in 1951. On to our next baseball oddity, this one from 1997, when Wade Boggs made a relief appearance for the New York Yankees. Now, this is not so unusual. Position players have stepped in to pitch in emergency situations or when a game is well out of reach, which is the case here. So this was the first game of an 8-game road trip for the Yankees, and they were in Anaheim taking on the Angels. Side note, just kind of wondering how many beers that Wade Boggs drank on the plane ride from New York to California. Kind of throwing back to that previous episode we did a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, by the 8th inning of this one, the Angels were up 12-4. They'd roughed up starter David Wells in the first, scoring 7 runs, and then they added 4 over the next pair of innings, so he was pulled after 3 complete. Reliever Graham Lloyd was brought on, and he pitched a solid 4 innings and only allowed 1 earned run. Now, could Lloyd have gone back out and pitched 1 more inning? The answer to that question is more than likely yes. He'd only thrown 53 pitches. He probably had a few more in the tank. But Boggs had been lobbying manager Joe Torre for a chance to pitch an inning, and so he got his chance in a lost game. Add to that, the Yankees bullpen had done a lot of work in the past few days, and they were set to play a doubleheader the following day. Boggs had not started or played his usual third base in this game, so he was fresh, and who knew that Boggs was a knuckleballer? He walked the first batter he faced, got 2 ground ball outs after that, and then faced Angels catcher Todd Green. Boggs baffled him with the knuckler and then struck him out. Boggs threw a total of 12 knuckleballs in his first appearance. His second appearance as a reliever came in '99 when he was with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. In that outing, Boggs actually pitched 1 1/3 innings, giving up a run on 3 hits. And now to our final baseball oddity of the day. Let's go back to 1941, and it was Pittsburgh Pirates manager Frankie Frisch getting tossed for a pretty strange reason. Now, first thing you should know is that Frisch was no stranger to being thrown out of ball games by umpires. Between his playing days and his managerial stints, he was ejected 100 times. On this day, Frisch's Pirates were playing a doubleheader against the Brooklyn Dodgers at Ebbets Field. The first game on this day was actually a makeup from a rainout earlier in the year, and with both teams in the heart of a pennant race, there was a little extra incentive for the umpires to get both games in. The Dodgers won the first game 9-0. When the second game started, third base umpire Jocko Conlon noted a slight mist in the air. The Dodgers put up a run in the bottom of the first, and with darker clouds looming in the distance, the Pirates started to slow play everything, taking a a little bit longer to get to the plate, stepping out of the box a little bit longer, adding just a little bit more time in hopes that rain would be on the way soon and the game would be called. Dodger fans started booing, and Conlon told Frisch that his boys needed to pick up the pace. In the third inning, the rain picked up a little bit, more than a drizzle, but nowhere near a deluge. But that didn't stop Frisch from yelling at Conlon, "Hey, Jock, don't you see the rain? Don't you have the guts to call it?" To which Conlon responded, "Don't you have the guts to play in it?" To start the top of the fourth, Frisch began twirling a black umbrella above his head, and then he started walking to take his place as third base coach. Even though Conlon did see a little humor in that and cracked a smile, he tossed Frisch from the game. The Dodgers put up 5 runs in the 8th to win Game 2, 6-2, but the league office was not finished with this situation, leading to Ford Frick fining Frankie Frisch $50 for what he called Frisch's vaudeville act. But the story doesn't quite end there. Norman Rockwell's 1948 painting titled Tough Call depicts 3 umpires looking skyward with a few drops of rain falling and 2 managers behind that trio arguing, said to have been inspired by the events on this day. 2 of the 3 umpires in the painting were at Ebbets Field on this day, and the 2 managers are Pittsburgh and Brooklyn. However, as author Paul Jackson pointed out in an article written about today's events, there is not an umbrella depicted in Rockwell's painting. Frisch is not the Pittsburgh manager in the picture, and Conlon, the man who did the ejecting, is not there either. So, there are some doubts about the provenance of the theory of the Rockwell painting. Time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Recently, a book was returned to a public library in San Antonio 82 years after it was checked out. The fine was waived, but at the original rate of 3 cents a day, the fine would have been a little more than $900. However, 82 years overdue is not even close to the record. A book was returned to the University of Cambridge Library in 1956 after being checked out for 288 years. It was originally borrowed in 1668. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.